This is Wickett on Wisconsin. My name's Mike Wickett. After 10 years in Milwaukee talking sports, I took a bit of a break, but now I'm back and here to talk about the Packers, the Bucks, the Brewers, and more with you. And now inside the Koss Headphone Studios, this is Wickett on Wisconsin with me, Mike Wickett. All right, so the Big Ten schedule is officially out. It was released at a snail's pace on Fox Sports this morning, and we have to talk about it. Quick mini episode of Wickett on Wisconsin. We'll look at the Badgers and the rest of the schedule as well because, as we found out this week, money talks, a.k.a. the Big Ten wanted to make some money. So they realized they had to go ahead and do that by playing some college football. So they decided to release their schedule this morning. And like I said, it came out in a snail's pace for whatever reason. That's just the way they decided to do it. Remember back when they used to do the NCAA tournament? And it would be like, here's a game. All right, Charles, you talk about it. Here's a game. All right, Kenny, no. Just get us the games. Let's go. Next, let's just keep on moving. So without any further ado, I'm going to give you the Big Ten schedule right here. Here's what it looks like. That's the entire thing if you're watching on the podcast. And if you're not, I'm going to run through some of these games. But, of course, I'm going to start with the Wisconsin Badgers. And the way this works is you get your division plus a couple of games outside of your division on the other side, and then championship week will be December the 19th. So you got 8 games. 8 games for the Badgers and 8 games for the rest of the conference, and it begins on October the 24th against Illinois. Little revenge game for what the Illini did to Wisconsin a year ago. I feel like Wisconsin should come out, assuming Wisconsin can play, I feel like Wisconsin should come out guns blazing and roll over Illinois in week 1, which is, by the way, a month and 5 days from when I'm recording this right now. It's on October 24th. They'll be opening the season up against the Illini. Then they go on the road and they face Nebraska in Lincoln. Scott Frost lost his father today as I record this, or last night, so thoughts and prayers to the head coach of Nebraska and his family going through this time right now. That's got to suck, man, and all the best. So Nebraska is Wisconsin's second opponent. They go on the road. Nebraska has not lived up to any of the hype under Scott Frost so far in Lincoln. And I know that Wisconsin's going to be looking for a lot of things. We don't even know who the starting quarterback is going to be. And Quintez Cephas is now playing for the Lions, and Jonathan Taylor is now playing for the Indianapolis Colts. So there are a lot of question marks, and that's a pretty tricky road game to go on the road and play in that kind of an environment, assuming there are any fans even allowed. And I don't think there will be, and if there are, there won't be many. Then Purdue comes to Madison, and then it's the biggest game. If the Badgers can get out to a 3-0 start, and there's a good chance they can get out to 3-0, then they go on the road, and then they face the Wolverines in Ann Arbor. And you know that Jim Harbaugh has been ready for this. His team has not stopped practicing during this whole confusion of the Big Ten. We're not playing. We might, out of all that stuff. Harbaugh and company have been practicing the entire time, like a lot of these programs have. So that'll be a big, big test for Wisconsin to go to the Big House, which will not have 100,000 fans in it. I can guarantee you that. They will go to the Big House and play the Wolverines. After that, you thought that was a tough place to play. Wisconsin stinks against Northwestern in Evanston. Yeah, they're terrible against Wisconsin against Northwestern in Evanston. They're 1-5 in their last 6 trips to Evanston. The last time they won was 2016. So they go to Northwestern, always tough for them to play at that high school football stadium. And then it's the rivalry game with Minnesota back at Camp Randall on November the 28th. And then just 2 games left, Indiana and then at Iowa. Indiana might trip them up. Who knows? Again, there's a lot of question marks about how good this Badger football team is going to be at this point. And then the rivalry game with Iowa at Kinnick Stadium. And that's always a physical matchup, and you can throw the records out. I mean, 8 games right there for the Wisconsin Badgers. I can see a couple of trip-up losses. I can see a win they're not supposed to get. 6-2. And will that be good enough to win the West? Because the following week will be the Big Ten championship game. 6-2 might be good enough to win the West. You know, you look at some of these other schedules, and everybody's got to play everybody. What's neat about this is you don't have to say, well, so-and-so played against, directional school from Ohio, or played Kent, or played, Northern Illinois, and such played against Notre Dame. Well, is it a good thing to lose to Notre Dame but pound Eastern Michigan? we don't have to worry about that. This is all Big Ten teams playing Big Ten teams. So 6-2 just might be good enough to get into the Big Ten championship game and represent the West. On the other side, I have to tell you, if you are looking at the Ohio State schedule, like I was, they have absolutely gifted, and I mean gifted, Ohio State a nice little hold-your-hand trip for a berth into the Final Four. Because as we know, the whole point of this, the whole point of the Big Ten playing is money, and the big money comes in the Final Four. If you can get into that college football playoff, that's where the big money lies. The Big Ten. Shame on the Big Ten for gift wrapping this opportunity for Ohio State to get into not only the Big Ten championship game, but the Final Four. That's what this is all about, and it's blatantly obvious to me. The Big Ten wanted to get Ohio State into the SEC, ACC, Big 12, the championship. The Big Ten is doing everything they can to get Ohio State into the college football playoff. How do I know? Let's take a look at that schedule. All right, shall we? They open with Nebraska at home. They've got a tough game at Penn State, and after that, it is a cakewalk. I mean a cakewalk to get to the Big Ten championship game. Nebraska, they should roll at Penn State, always a tough game. And then it's Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana, Illinois, Sparty, and then Michigan, who Ohio State has owned. The Big Ten has decided that they are going to do everything they can to get Ohio State into the college football playoff. And it's despicable. It's absolutely despicable. I hope they trip up. I don't know who's going to trip up Ohio State. It's not going to be Nebraska in week 1. It could be Penn State in week 2. Who knows? Fields is a tremendous quarterback for Ohio State. They're always loaded. Ryan Day probably is the real deal after taking over for Urban Meyer. People are still waiting to see what he's going to do long-term at Ohio State. But my goodness, that schedule for Ohio State is an absolute joke. Nebraska, Penn State, Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan State, and then Michigan. And I understand it's who's in your conference. That's fine. But for example, like Michigan plays at Minnesota, and they also play against Wisconsin. Probably the two best teams in the West. Who does Ohio State have out of the West? Nebraska and Illinois. What in the hell is that? I mean, that you could have given that schedule to Rutgers. You could have given that schedule to Maryland. You could have given that schedule to anybody. But no, the Big Ten decided we're going to give it to Ohio State because we want to walk them into the Big Ten championship game where they'll probably beat Wisconsin or Minnesota or Iowa or whoever out of the West. And just so they can make the argument. And you'll see Ryan Day and probably Urban Meyer, and you'll see all the Big Ten people getting on TV screaming how we should be in the college football playoff because our schedule is so great. And maybe there's an argument for it. Maybe there is an argument for it. But Ohio State getting gift-wrapped, getting gifted, getting walked into the Big Ten championship game, it's despicable. Absolutely despicable. And it's too bad that it had to happen. However, I want to end on this positive note. We have college football to talk about. There's games today. There's games next week. And, of course, the Big Ten starts on October the 24th. And that first game for the Badgers, again, it's going to be against Illinois. What an interesting opening week, too. Again, Michigan and Minnesota, that's the jug game. Ohio State and Nebraska, I don't think it's going to be terribly interesting, but I'm pulling for Scott Frost and company. What else? Iowa's got Purdue. It's not an overly exciting first week of college football in the Big Ten, but you know what it is? It's college football in the Big Ten. It's Big Ten football, and I'm here for it. I hope you're here for it. I hope you're here for the next episode of Wickett on Wisconsin. There's going to be one about the Packers and the Lions coming up on Sunday, so make sure you check out my instant reaction podcast to that. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to yours, and please tell a friend about Wickett on Wisconsin. Until next time, my name is Mike Wickett. This has been Wickett on Wisconsin. I thank you so much for watching. I thank you so much for downloading and subscribing. And please give me a rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. Definitely give me a rating. I would appreciate that so much, and hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Mike Wickett. This has been Wickett on Wisconsin. As always, go Pack, go Bucks, go Brewers. And today on Wisconsin, Thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin. If you have any feedback or you want to reach out to the show, you can find me on Facebook, Mike Wickett Podcasts, or you can email MikeWickettPodcasts@gmail.com. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter @Mike Wickett. Thanks to Silverman Sound Studios for providing the music for today's show. And you can find us anywhere you find your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Until next week, thanks for listening to Wickett on Wisconsin.